Welcome to Unit 4.5, The Inner Conversation. I'm Diana Lindsay, and this is my story. Lawrence Vanderpost once said that man is never alone. Acknowledged or unacknowledged, that which dreams through him is always there to support him from within. Until I was diagnosed with cancer, I never knew how profound that support was. Now, we talk with our bodies all the time. Our senses send out a cascade of fight and flight chemicals that propel us into action. Our cells also communicate what makes us happy, brings us pleasure. The pleasure cascade is just as potent as that stress one. Sometimes these are routine communications. We're the body's gopher. Who's deciding it's time to eat, drink, or pee anyway? You or your cells? Sometimes that communication is more urgent, and if we don't listen, it's not too polite. Often we turn off the phone altogether, and that can lead us into trouble. It certainly did for me. When I was on the table getting a biopsy for lung cancer, my body decided that we needed a communications upgrade. And that night in the dark, when I was afraid, it sent me an image of a woman with a giant boulder on her chest. Yes, that's what my CT looks like, I thought. But then my body showed me what the CT could not. It sent me an image of 12 protective figures emerging out of my body and surrounding me. We are the healthy organs of your body, they said, and we will wait with you. Somehow my unconscious took that to mean that I should find my own circle of protective figures. And I emailed my friends thinking that this needed to be an external thing. My friends came. They sang with me, they danced, they hugged me. And at the end of the 6 hours that they did that, I felt radiantly better. Somehow, dancing, singing, and hugging were my healing plan. And this was great to know because the next day my doctor did not have a plan. My cancer was incurable. I was placed in palliative care. So in this face of nothing, where would I turn? And I turned inside. I said, where are those protective figures? Can I find them again? My doctor was not empty-handed. He gave me a targeted therapy called Tarceva. He also scheduled me in a week for a targeted radiation called Gamma Knife. During that week, I put headphones on and I listened to my body every night and every morning. Because I wasn't trained in meditation, the images that it sent me were images of dancers because I was trained in choreography. Every night, the image got slightly better. Was it wishful thinking? No. At the end of a week, instead of 3 lesions on my MRI, there were only 2. So I thought this was worth trying. My meditations increased to 45 minutes. I was also on Tarceva, and I was responding well to it. So this wasn't the only thing that was the cause. I came to actually think of it as a status update, my body telling me how it was doing. The dancers in these first few weeks did a very simple and repetitive motion. They stomped into cells. They stomped into my lung. Now, when I saw pictures of what my drug was doing, stomping into the receptors on the edge of a cell so that another energy molecule could not get in. In fact, they were the square peg that was blocking up a round hole. I thought that's very interesting how much those images are alike. What was more interesting was that my tumor mass shrunk in half. The dancers stomping released bubbles into this environment, very much like a cancer cell imploding or apoptosis releases bubbles into the body, and my tumor shrunk in half again. All of the bubbles crowded this inner landscape so much that the dancers brought in poles so that the bubbles could evacuate out. Now, I learned years later that the way the body's macrophages ride in to take this debris of the dead cell is through something called chains of hyaluronan, which look an awful lot like my poles. In November, I had a meditation where hands were massaging my lymph nodes. And just a few weeks later, my mediastinal lymph node involvement was resolved. Just a few weeks later, the meditation stopped. Dancers could not dance. There was no more bubbles to release. They were on the top of lava spires, and no amount of tap dancing could make that lava spire chip away. Interestingly, this is what scar tissue looks like. And one concept is that the cancer at that point went to scar because the mass stabilized. Now, am I the only one that has this kind of imagery? No, I've asked around, and when I work with other patients, they often will confess to me that they too visualize their cancer going away. One saw ants carrying away a mound of cancer. Another saw swordsmen who dueled with every cancer cell that slid down the vas deferens. One used knitters to knit up a leak in her brain. And one that I absolutely love had a cowboy who lassoed out her macular degeneration. I don't think you have to decide on the vocabulary ahead of time. Your body will start the language lessons. Just believe that your body is trying as hard to reach you as you're trying to reach it. The technique that I used at the One technique for initiating this kind of an inner dialogue is through personification. Personify the part of your body that is in crisis. And that's what I did. When I knew that I had trouble in my lung, I asked to see lung woman. Because our bodies can read body language, it's easy for us to read the signs this way. You can just ask to see him or her, and then your task is just to observe them. Is lung woman healthy or is she not? In my case, she had a boulder on her chest. That's pretty clear imagery. Your first thing is to ask, what do you need? So that too is pretty clear. Nobody wants a big boulder on the chest. But I felt it's very critical that you offer your complete support. So it's like making a friend in a very foreign country. Speak slowly, listen, laugh when you miscommunicate. Try different ways of communicating, and you'll build a shared vocabulary. Be more interested in what they have to say than what you want to tell them. So this is the opposite of visualizing an outcome. You're not telling your body what to do. You're listening to what your body has to say. And have no expectation of how that conversation is going to go. Just be thrilled that you're having it at all. So this is what I would try. I would be still. I would invoke the relaxation response. In Qigong meditation, this is called the Schwan state. I would often experience it as the black before a movie. You just try to get to that place of black out of which the picture emerges. Once you're in the meditation, observe where and how the body responds through sensation. Where do you feel something? And then wait for an image to appear. Observe it. Ask it what you need. We talked in the last unit about brain waves, and I think this is a very interesting concept to think about in relationship to this kind of imagery. Gamma waves, which are on the bottom of this chart, are a very focused kind of meditation. We actually didn't even know that it existed until we got the Buddhist monks with the fMRI machine on their heads. Up until that time, we thought there was only 4 types of brain waves. Beta waves are how we go through life with our daily conscious thought. Alpha waves are that kind of daydreaming, fading out, spacey, but that's really our relaxation response. But when we go down to theta waves, that's when we start seeing the imagery. That is our source of our subconscious creativity. When Buddhist monks do their loving kindness meditation, they're very focused on sending loving kindness out to the world. They use gamma waves, a very concentrated effort. But when they do what they call their goddess meditation, they go down to theta waves. They see imagery. And I think that's what happened to me. Now, delta is when we go into sleep. And interestingly, you emerge from the delta into theta in order to dream. So you can get to that kind of dreamlike imagery from either a meditative state or from a dreaming state. It's not just those facing cancer that have discovered this. Many scientific discoveries are attributed to dreams. One, August von Stradanitz, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, the founder of organic structural chemistry, said, "I fell into a reverie, and lo, the atoms were gambling before my eyes." I love that. Carl Jung said that, "I know that if we meditate on a dream sufficiently long and thoroughly, if we take it about with us and turn it over and over, something almost always comes of it." Freud believed that dreams were the remnants of personal experience, but Jung took it a step further, believing that our dreams were a metaphoric language built on archetypes. Now, what those archetypes are will vary by culture and will vary by what our experience is, but the concept that it was a metaphor, that these images were a metaphor, was really important to me in trying to understand their meaning. Jung asked himself daily, as he kept a record of his own dreams and confronted what he called the unconscious, he asked very similar questions as I did. What am I doing in this dream? Who are these figures? What is the source of this? Is it within us all? Is it part of a collective message? Is it universal in any way? So another thing to try, in addition to this meditative state where imagery arises, is of course to dream. Many people experience difficulty in remembering their dreams, so some tips are, before you go to sleep, ask for a dream. Then, in your effort to remember your dream, put a paper and pencil by your bed. Reach for it when you first wake up. It really helps to not be woken up abruptly by a really strident alarm. Make sure your first habit is to think, what did I dream? Reach and write. Now, next comes understanding your dreams guidance. Well, Freud and Jung spent decades understanding what dreams meant. And for most of us, we don't have that time. So I made a deal with my body. I said, I need to communicate with you. You need to communicate with me. And so we're going to have to find a language we both understand. One, I felt like I had to be the one that could interpret it, that I did not have to go for professional help. And that two, if any dream came that I didn't understand, I would just ask for it to be repeated the next night more clearly. So in your efforts this week, listen to the Healing Glen meditation. It's a way to get into this inner state. And then try to keep track of your dreams for a week. And we'll see you in the next module.